Welcome to it, sports fans. Slightly different look tonight. No Dave with me tonight, and I thought I would just go on. First day without Dave, and we have technical issues. Huh? It's going to happen. It's going to happen. What's happening, sports fans? Good to have you with me. I'm MKT, the MKT Show. Gareth Cliff is behind me. So that's always fun. Always good to have Gareth in the house. Good for you, Gareth. Good for you joining us. Good for you at home joining us. Hey, big game tonight. Liverpool Arsenal. Very, very good. A good game last night. LeBron James, by the way. Oh, this is 2 nights ago. Oh my, the guy's unstoppable. It's over. Listen, if you don't think LeBron James is great, there's nothing I can do for you. There is just nothing I can do for you. LeBron James has done it again, folks. He has done it again. Number 4 on the way. One for the wedding finger, as they say. Just absolutely phenomenal. So for tonight, I thought, there's only one subject to go on about tonight. We'll do Premier League. We'll go into the Premier League tomorrow, but tonight is as simple as this. It is all about the Champions League. I thought I'd quickly go through the Champions League groups. Apologies if you, of course, 7:30. It is a routine. We are creatures of habit. But I had to get into the Champions League groups because when I saw them, I thought, oh my goodness. The European scene's not as easy as it was back in the day. And I'm just looking at these groups. I think one team's probably the least happy of them all. And you would have thought with their history, they would avoid this tough group. But it is rough. So let's get into it. Welcome to it. I'm MKT Show. And great to have you with me. I'm going to take it from the top. By the way, we'll talk a little bit about LeBron James. Feel free to share your questions, of course, in the chat. But I'm going to get into it. I'll get into Man City's group straight away. Look, this isn't as easy as it looks. We know what it's like to travel to Greece. It's been horrible for English teams. In fact, English teams just don't travel well. You have to be honest and say English teams just don't travel well. You've seen Pep Guardiola has had all the money in the world, the biggest squad in the world. Maybe it's the Premier League. Maybe that's true. Is the Premier League just too tough for the Premier League to still be dominant? No excuse, but it could be. But Pep Guardiola, this will be a season where if you're a Pep hater, this is your season to probably have a go because now he's spent, upwards of £300 million just on defenders. If they can't do it this season with Laporte there, they've Nathan Ake, they've spent a packet on who's a very, very good player. They've seriously, they've just handed 60 million again to Benfica. So it's a big one for Man City. And I think this is Pep's last season. I just think the cycle's over with Pep. And I think like Jurgen Klopp, everyone thinks these things will last forever. What does the history tell you? Pep is 3 seasons. So this is Pep's 4th year. He's 1 year over his normal date. I like to look at the data. The data says Pep at every club, at his beloved Barcelona, only lasted 3 seasons. Bayern Munich, where the league is built for the Bavarians, 3 seasons. Intensity, and he grinds it, guys, right? Pep does grind at people, and I'm afraid it's his last season. If City can't do it this season, they got Porto, Olympiacos, Marseille. That Olympiacos game for me is the toughest one of the lot. Purely because when you go away, if there's no fans, great. But my God, we know Olympiacos are just, they had their troubles, and there's a reason they weren't in the league, in the Champions League, is the last 2 seasons. But they're back. They're back now. And if there's fans, there is no tougher ground in the world to go. So, but City, that group, they should take care of it. Marseille aren't, of course, Marcel Desailly's 90s, late or early mid-90s Marseille. Winning the Champions League. Marseille aren't quite what they are. Liga, like it or not, Farmers League. Like, come on. No one takes Serie A or Liga seriously. So City should come through that group at worst second. And the iteration of Porto as it is now, certainly not Mourinho's one. So easy enough there. You expect City to come through and be through into the last 16. The next group, Group D, it's got 2 former champions, of course, dominant teams, Liverpool, Ajax, Atalanta, and Midtjylland in there. Really, Atalanta being that great challenge. That's not the easiest group either. It's probably a dogfight, though, for second. I think what we saw with Atalanta is they can play, but they don't have any squad depth. We saw what happened to them after the bubble. Their players, it was basically the same 11 on rotation. But that's a great side, by the way. That's good for everybody who supports the English sort of football league. It's going to be good for you to see Atalanta. If you haven't seen them play, they are playing out of the back. It is some of the best football on the planet. Gegen press from the top, and they push it. They've got their own patterns, and they are playing from the back. There is no long ball there. There is no long. So that's going to be, I think that's going to be the best football, right? In Liverpool, Ajax, and that Atalanta team. That's going to be the group to watch as a neutral and just enjoy the football, because those three teams, we know now what Liverpool are. Well, Ajax gave us what football is now. We call it tiki-taka now. They've been doing it from the 70s. So to the Ajax kids now, everyone's excited about playing out from the back. Johan Cruyff will tell you we were doing that in the 70s. So the best football. Cannot wait to watch that. And all of the teams really have a gimme. And it does actually matter, right? Is you don't want to come second. And it does matter when you got a gimme. If you can win it after 4, you give everybody a break, because it's tough now. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, weekend, and Premier League's no joke. And Liverpool, I believe, will need it more than anybody, because I believe they're at the end of their cycle. The more rest they can get for Mane, Salah, they've been playing 3 years solid. It's tough. It's tough in this Klopp system. It's not as easy as it was before, but I expect Liverpool and Atalanta to come through that group quite easily. Ajax in a big-time reboot. They've just sold everybody. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Get the hell out. Big money. What they'll do is don't you worry about Ajax. The system's great. They'll be back 2-3 years. They'll have another bunch of kids, and they'll threaten Europe again. That's a great, great group. That Atalanta team, I'm more happy for football fans who didn't get to watch Atalanta than anybody else, because I think they are the most thrilling. And it's strange because by Italian standards, they are so open. They are so open. But the football, absolutely spectacular. Group E is the interesting one, of course, of most interest to me. The Europa League champions in the mix with Chelsea Football Club. That's really, it should be those two. And Chelsea, we don't know what they are. We have to be honest. I don't care who you support. Nobody knows who or what Chelsea are. And at the moment, I mean, Kransador and Ren in that group, that should be easy for everybody. If Chelsea want to actually say something, you've got to go beyond the last 16. You got to expect Lampard to get you to a quarter or a semi-final with a group that easy. There's no reason not to be getting there. There is absolutely... Lampard has no excuses left. By then, I mean, that'll be... After December, Lampard has no excuses. There'll be no injuries. There's no... In fact, even now, there's no excuses. So that's an easy enough group. And Sevilla, I think they've lost a few. And people, as happens, when you win, right, and you really are in a selling league, a selling club, because they're really trapped, right? Sevilla have been, they're nearly their men, right, for 10 years. 10, 15 years. We know Dani Alves, then they had to get rid of him. Jesus Navas, who's now back and has reinvented himself as a right wing back. Sevilla are the unfortunate club. They're trapped in limbo. They're trapped in between, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, which are the three giants there. And they're that fourth, fifth club. Because Atletico Madrid, of course, is in the big three. Then Valencia is the fourth, who they're kind of fluttering in and out. But Sevilla always winning the Europa League, but never quite feel there. And when they got a cycle going, what happens? Barcelona comes calling. The rest of Europe comes calling. We've seen it before. And they've just lost probably their greatest playmaker of all time. Right? So it's a rebuilding season for Sevilla. If Lampard can't do it and win this group, by January, February, you've got to be having interesting questions. Because there's no problems with squad depth at Chelsea. There are no excuses. Love Alonso or not, there are 2 left backs, 2 right backs, 4 or 5 centre backs, 3 or 4, 5 midfielders. Lampard might still bring in his chosen one, which is Declan Rice for whatever reason. There is no excuse for Chelsea not to win that group. So that's easy enough for Chelsea. They should beat Sevilla. Sevilla aren't the same team. They're not going to be the same team as they were last season. It's a reboot again. And people's heads have been turned. Expect that entire Sevilla back 4. Reguilon has already gone. Of course, he was a Real Madrid player anyway. But expect them to be decimated. Absolutely decimated. So easy enough there for Chelsea. The interesting one, and I'd love to hear what people think. I would love to hear what people think. The Man United group's a nightmare. They've got what United have now is their absolute nightmare. And not because they got PSG. That's not the nightmare. Because I think even the most ardent Manchester United fan is thinking, oh, that's tough. Like, that's tough. Even if you love Man United, you have to be honest about where the club is at the moment. I'll tell you what the tricky one is. Man United got RB Leipzig. And Julian Nagelsmann, die Wunderkind, is serious, people. I mean, Julian Nagelsmann looks like he shouldn't be legally allowed to drink. He looks like a baby man, a man baby. But he is die Wunderkind. He is the next one. He is the next one. And I mean, RB Leipzig, they've been, Werner, get the hell out, and they'll recycle. Germany probably, I mean, you're looking somewhere at Ajax and the entire German system in terms of developing youngsters. They are churning them out. Don't want to get too deep into why, but it's a 20-year-old project, and we see now the fruits of their labor. I mean, you look at that Bayern Munich front three now. You got Lewandowski, but both sides, you got Gnabry, Sane. Those are local kids. Those are local kids. And, you know, Chelsea have just spent an insane amount on Havertz. The German kids are absolutely everywhere and dominating. And they've just come from an era of Ozil, right? And Schürrle, Royce. Just dominant. System over talent. The Germans get it, people. And if you've been to Germany, it's such an interesting country. You know, I was reading, I believe it was the 2010 World Cup. Or 2014. When was it they won? 2014. As to why Germany were favorites. And it is quite incredible how your international football team will resemble what your society is. All right? Brazil. I mean, I haven't been to Brazil. Let me use an example I can maybe relate to. Argentina. Right? Fractious country. Exciting people. Temperamental, extremely. And you hate to play into that stereotype. But when I went there, it's something I love about it. They are feverish at all times. Fever pitch. Everything is great or everything is a disaster when I was in Argentina. Everything is great or everything is a disaster. But that is what Argentina is. And it's a very, very interesting thing that you see with the German team. We know German history, very recent history. Unstable, things happened, awful. But look how they've systematically rebuilt the country. And the stability which they have at state level has just meant, you know, organized. The great saying in Germany that I love, fortunate to have had a parent who lived in the south of Germany, in Stuttgart for a while, is they say in Germany, you're late. The train is not late. You are late. That's a great saying some of my friends have taught me when we discuss the difference between where I live in South Africa and where they live. They say the difference is in Germany, you are late, not the train. What it tells you is system over talent. System is safety, and systems will always win. Look at what Germany are churning out at the moment. I mean, it's admirable. I'm sorry. 20 years ago, German football was really a disaster. You've got to say it. The league was a disaster. And what did they do? They said, all German teams, what do you do? Same formation. Everybody, same formation. The DFB said, enough of this nonsense. International stars. We're tired of having Vicente Lizarazu and all of these guys as our star players at Bayern Munich. Is we're going to center it around Bayern Munich, but we pick German kids. I mean, look at the team now. It's just phenomenal. It is just phenomenal. You know, you think to yourself, whew, we've lost Thiago Alcantara. And this is German football. This is just how they do it. No one cares. All the Bavarians don't give a damn. Just won the Champions League. What's that? You want to go? Great. We lost Toni Kroos. Oh, well, get the hell out. Thomas Müller, get in. You're here. You're the guy now. Absolutely phenomenal. So you got to be honest and say the banana skin for Man United is the RB Leipzig game. I think it's clear. Like PSG are levels above Man United and probably Leipzig. But that Leipzig game decides it. And that, I think, and you have to, this is now time for big boy conversation, big girl conversation for Man United fans. That's going to be the acid test for Oli. It's not realistic to say we're going to compete against PSG. I understand you want to thump your chest. I know Man United fans want to tell me about the history and Fergie and Busby Babes. Let it go, people. Let it go. Listen, Cindy Crawford was once the most beautiful woman in the world. Great. That was in the 90s. I don't even think smartphones could send text then. I was like, we were still using faxes. Man United fans, let it go. It's been 8 years now since Fergie. This is going to be the 8th season. You're not going to win a title. Humble yourselves. PSG are not your competition. The acid test is RB Leipzig. And if you don't pass that test, I'd love to know, what do Man United fans think? Because I think the league's tough, right? The Premier League's tough. You've got Chelsea, who've just spent big, and Chelsea's kids virtually drew last in terms of points with Man United last season. So I keep saying tied third. They got the same points as Man United. That should worry Man United, because that was pretty much what Man United have now. That's pretty much what Man United have now. And I'll address a story I read in the papers today after this. So I think I'd love to hear from Man United fans. But my opinion, if Man United cannot beat RB Leipzig, it's time for Oli. It has to be. It has to be, because as much as it's becoming, and Man United fans hate to hear this, but people, you got to say it. You're slipping into Liverpool. You're slipping into that Arsenal territory, because you're starting to hear the Man United narrative more and more. Once clubs use terms like the United way, when so-and-so was here, the standards are, that's a problem. That's a problem. Because if you talk to Chelsea and Manchester United fans right now, what are they talking about? Titles. Is we won the title with Aspilicueta. That's not long ago. We had Instagram, we had TikTok then. That's not pre-Instagram. Pre-TikTok was when Man United last won their title in the league. You have to be realistic. So RB Leipzig are the acid test. I think Chelsea have. Listen, 10 games will let you know where you are in the league. But if that team last year couldn't beat Chelsea's kids, I'm sorry, what do you think Chelsea are going to do? Even if Lampard is awful this season, that was as bad as he's going to get. Because believe you me, Ziyech is better than Hudson-Odoi. And when your rotation is Havertz, and now you got Werner, and now you got Chilwell, the kids are 1 year older, and Man United couldn't match them then with a mature squad. Martial's old now. People must stop saying he's young. He's 24. Rashford's a bona fide first-team starter. Greenwood's maybe the one I give a break. But as for the rest, Matic, Maguire, Lindelof, Bailly, Shaw, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he's developed. Don't let the age fool you. It's his 4th season in the Premier League. He's a thoroughbred. I don't want to hear a developing star for £50 million. So best case scenario, Man United are 4th this season. But I wouldn't say that's your acid test, because I still think Oli has work to do. If you don't beat RB Leipzig, that lets you know that Man United should have stuck with Moyes, quite frankly, because you've gone backwards. If you can't beat RB Leipzig, or you can't at least push RB Leipzig, because I think Man United fans underestimate what's coming there. I really do. I really, really do. I'd love to know what people think. I'll take your questions. Ryan Fuller says, I'm watching from Berlin. Hey, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. How is Berlin? So my sister's boyfriend is from Berlin, or he studied there at least, and they keep telling me about how liberal and fun it is there. Good food, apparently. I still haven't made my way out there. So I cannot wait to go to Berlin, spend more time in the south, and Munich. Spend some time there up north. I really gets a little windy up north in Germany, but Berlin, huh? Ryan Fuller, great to have you all the way from Germany. Before I go on to something, I think Ryan's next point is great here. He says, United have the same issues as Chelsea. They don't have big characters that can lead. Ryan, I'm going to come back to that, because it ties into my second point that I want to pivot to. My God, I read, and I I hope Man United fans realize that this is happening. There's a good chance this is happening. This stuff doesn't just come out in the papers. Ousmane Dembele. I'm going to say that again. I want you to hear this. Dembele could be on his way from Barcelona to Manchester United. This is a man, or boy, I mean, he's still young, who, when Barcelona officials went to his house after he didn't report to training, was found playing PlayStation because he didn't feel like coming to training. folks, this, if true, you have to now, as Man United fans, you have to be honest and say there's a culture problem. You have to look at it and say, what are the two problems that Man United have had? So I don't want to go back too far. In the last 6 months, what are the two problems Man United have had? Maguire, Greenwood. Now, under Alex Ferguson, because that's what Man United fans keep as the standard, could you imagine Greenwood doing what he's doing? Could you imagine? Is it even... I can't fathom Maguire going to Mykonos and thinking it's okay to represent Manchester United that way if Fergie was there. Now, that's a culture problem, right? That is a culture problem. There's a reason why when you go to Merrill Lynch, right? When you go to State Farm, when you go to Berkshire Hathaway, there's a reason why there's 3 rounds of intensive interviews. There's a reason why there's 3 rounds of tests that you have to do, and they are intense. They become more and more intense because no one cares about talent. The big dogs don't care about talent. It's a character thing. The talent's expected. The talent is expected. Now, Man United, to say Man United haven't had character problems before wouldn't be true. But there was a secret. And Ryan Fuller, I want to come back to your point here. Ryan says, United have the same issues as Chelsea. They don't have big characters that can lead. The reason Manchester United could have Carlos Tevez, the reason Manchester United could have Eric Cantona, the reason Manchester United could have Juan Sebastian Veron, the reason Manchester United could have these guys, David Beckham, who some might say cared more about being a pop star than a football star. The reason you could have these is you had Roy Keane, right? You had Ryan Giggs. You had Rio Ferdinand. You had Nemanja Vidic. Bringing talent in, right, and expecting the manager to keep an eye on things. And Jose Mourinho learned this lesson at Real Madrid, but a conversation for a different time. It never works. It never, ever works if the manager has to look after the talent. It never... Name one football club. There's a reason why PSG is a disaster. I like Thiago Silva. Honestly, I do like Thiago Silva, but he's not Dunga. He's not. He's not Roy Keane. He's just not. For that type of talent, you know what you need? Is Thiago Silva is more your leader by example from the looks of things. Right? And I can understand the language barrier, but you can see it even before he made the mistake. I mean, just how he plays, is he's not really bellowing out. Is to keep a hold of Neymar, actually. There's a reason why Brazil have been a disaster since 2002. Because then they had Cafu, and he did not muck about. I mean, there's a famous story of him having a fight with Roberto Carlos in the dressing room in 1998. Like full on. Like proper, not mucking about. Anyway, a story for a different time. But he'll put hands on you. Then you could have Ronaldinho. Then it didn't matter that you had Robinho. Then it didn't matter that you had these flair guys. The problem for Brazil now is you got Neymar as the leader. Who's going to tell him what? They don't have a captain. You got Dani Alves. You got these guys. The reason Man United could have Cantona, Keane. Who's fighting Vidic when Vidic says, get the hell out of here with that nonsense? Tevez can't fight that. Tevez went to Man City to show you the difference. And Vincent Kompany, another guy who I think is a legend, but he led more by example than bellowing. Carlos Tevez took off in the middle of in December to go and play golf for 3 months. That's not happening at Man United. You think Nemanja Vidic is happening? There is no single club I know where the talent has to be looked after by the manager, especially when you have that level talent. Man United don't have a captain. I don't care about anything that anybody has to say about Maguire. Folks, if you put yourself in that position, I don't want excuses. I don't want to hear it about unlucky. I don't want to hear it about he's young, having a good time. Vincent Kompany, never in trouble. Nemanja Vidic, never in trouble. right? Roy Keane, for all of his on-field stuff, for all of Roy Keane's on-field stuff, all of it, right? Yeah, he had a little bit of his gambling stuff here and there. But off the pitch, even Roy Keane, for me, the ultimate, maybe not the best talented player, but I'd argue with him and Thierry Henry as the greatest purely because of his character. When you represent Manchester United, you must sacrifice. You can't be the captain of Man United and be in Mykonos getting hammered. I'm sorry. Listen, it's not a sanctimony thing. To whom much is given, much is expected. Who's going to look after Dembele? Listen, if Maguire now walks to Dembele and Dembele's at home playing PlayStation, what's Dembele going to say to Maguire when he goes, dude, you were in jail last year. That's a problem. You want to bring in another one now. All right, let's go through, for me, a few of the problem characters. Jesse Lingard cares more about fashion than football, and he's one of the kids. So they love him. He'll stay at United. It's a problem. Greenwood, we've already seen. Folks, we are who we are. Don't tell me that he's a young boy or whatever. He's 20 years old, and as a footballer, it's different. It's all good and well. Listen, if you're smart enough to do something, be smart enough to not get caught. Right? If he's going to do that, don't get caught. What it tells me, character problem. He's either not smart or he just doesn't get it. It's one of the two things. If you're smart enough, you don't get caught. The Greenwood, that's a problem. Mykonos, that's a problem. Jesse Lingard, that's a problem. Paul Pogba, come on. Instagram star. Masquerading as a footballer. Who's the leader in there? Because now you're bringing Dembele in. You're bringing in another character problem where Man United, as Ryan Fuller points out, you need characters in the dressing room. You don't need any more talent at Manchester United. Daniel James, and I know Man United fans want to be hard on him, that's electrifying talent. His confidence has been drained, but I saw enough early in that first 10 games for United is give the boy time, let the body fill out a bit, let the craft. Listen, being a winger is one of the trickiest positions on the park. Right? When to hug the touchline, when to come inside, when to allow for the overlap. He's still learning the craft. Remember, being a winger is a crafty position. Arjen Robben, right, as electrifying as he was at Chelsea, and I had the pleasure of watching him live for 2 seasons, when he was at Bayern Munich, was a different animal. Because then he'd figured out the craftsmanship. You look at Ryan Giggs, tear away at 19. Ryan Giggs at 28 was unstoppable. In fact, when you think of Ryan Giggs, right, and his pace, it's almost an afterthought. When you think of Giggs from, I'd say, 25 to the end of his career, I mean, the man's really, it was about the craft of his arcing runs, pulling defenders, so going wide, tucking inside, allowing for whether it was Irwin or Everett to overlap on the left. These are things Daniel James will have to learn. He doesn't have to go to 100 miles an hour all the time. The talent's not the problem at Man United. You got a character issue. Name the teams, right? Even down to Leicester and Blackburn. Blackburn failed the first season. Why? They didn't quite have the characters. They had to get Tim Sherwood in there, and Sherwood organized a little bit in there, and they took it all the way. Leicester, I mean, that was all character, experienced guys, veteran leaders, and then they sprinkled it with the talent of Vardy, etc., and Mahrez up top. But strong characters. Robert Huth, he'd been at Chelsea, knows how to win, and strong leader. Wunderkind for Germany. We know Robert Huth's history. Man United don't need more talent. They need more character. You've got the talent in-house at United. But who's telling Pogba it's unacceptable? Paul Pogba's not the guy getting to training early, folks. Staying late. He's not. He's not. Like, the Instagram game's too much on fleek. Jesse Lingard, that's a problem. You should be one of the veteran leaders right now. You are the heart and soul of the club. Honestly, Jesse Lingard, I know more for Instagram and his fashion stuff that he does, which is sick, by the way. It's beautiful. His outfits and what he does as a fashion designer, everything he does is unbelievable. But I know Jesse Lingard more for that and that lifestyle and his tweets and all of his cool videos, funny videos and memes that he puts out of himself. I know him more for that than his football. Where's the character, as Ryan Fuller's saying? Stop worrying about talent. You need some character. And if Dembele comes into Man United, love to know what Man United fans think. Because that is the end. You got what? Dembele, Jay Lings, Pogba, Greenwood, Mr. Mykonos captain there, Maguire. Ollie has to get a control of this thing. But folks, there is no team. There is no team. Let's just stick to the Premier League. There is no team where the manager had to handle the talent that went on to be great. There is not one team. You can't name it. Man City dynasty, who was in charge? Vincent Kompany. Mancini, Pellegrini, you just coach. You just coach. Don't worry about Carlos Tevez. Right? Don't worry about what we got going in here. And until they had that right, Fernandinho, coach, you go and coach. Prime Fernandinho, Vincent Kompany. We got this. Zanetti at Inter. Look at all those great Inter teams. Folks, there is no team where the manager should be looking after the talent. And you're going to be great. All Mourinho's teams. I mean, Mourinho had 7 international captains in his teams. Even his second iteration. Great, strong leaders. Ivanovic was still there. They had Terry still there. Think of Man United's great dynasties. Keane in charge. Pallister in charge. Bruce in charge. No one's mucking with that. Ferdinand in charge. Evra in charge. Edwin van der Sar in charge. The players run it. At Man United, right? To use the old adage, the patients are running the asylum. Really. The inmates are running the prison. They are. Look, I mean, you even look at Liverpool. Weren't winning. Virgil van Dijk came in there, and you can see he doesn't take nonsense. Different. That's got. Listen, you can think whatever you want of Virgil van Dijk. What did Jurgen Klopp do? Sacco. It's a character thing. Sacco can clearly play, folks. He can play, but Klopp saw very early. He was late in preseason, I believe the story was. And what did Jurgen Klopp say? Character out. He had to get the characters out. He got in his guys. James Milner wasn't just a talent signing. Character, knows how to win, always there. Boring James Milner, always on time. Setting the example for youngsters. Doesn't take, and Yorkshire guy. So he's not going to take, I don't care where you're from. I've won, I'm tough. You need that. So Milner, Virgil van Dijk came in. What happened to Liverpool? They had the talent. Jurgen had brought in the talent, and they were fine with the talent. But he brought in the characters. Joel Matip. Characters. Not the greatest talent, because we've already got talent. Jordan Henderson. Brought him in. Clearly, there's some character and steel there. Character. That's how you win. There is no team anybody will point out to me where the dressing room doesn't run itself. The manager has to be free to go and coach and express himself and worry about the next opponents. That's what Jurgen Klopp does. And listen, kudos to him. But Man United, if Ollie gets Dembele, forget it. You make top 6, you're lucky. You make top 6, you are lucky. Love to know what you think. Before I let you go, big game tonight. Love to hear Liverpool, Arsenal. We'll do Premier League tomorrow. I'll get into my thoughts on the Premier League upcoming this weekend. I'll get into that tomorrow. I'll run through. I've got Ryan Fuller has posted 3 or 4 questions. So Ryan Fuller says, United's squad is not big enough, and they will be lucky if they finish in the top 6 since they are competing in Europe too. Ryan, it's such a tough truth to tell Man United is they've done horribly in the transfer market. It's now clear they spent too much money on Paul Pogba. And you know what the problem with Pogba is? And this is obviously just, I'm reading the papers, so I know what everybody else knows, but here's what I think. The problem is that Pogba is the Adidas guy. And when you spend 90 million on somebody in the current climate, that ties your hands. Because I don't care if you're Man United, you're Real Madrid, I don't care. You spend that number, and he's probably one of the best paid footballers in the world, which means between 300,000 and 500,000 pounds a week. If Pogba says, I don't want to go, and here's where the problem is I think Ed Woodward may at a stage, maybe, I'm not saying he did, managers may at a stage, and then I think Adidas came and said, we need to have a conversation here. Because, folks, for those of you that don't know, transfers happen this way all the time. And Adidas would have paid for a part of Pogba's transfer. Obviously, you can't present it that way. So somehow it'll be inserted into the sponsorship as a bonus, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, they'll say, okay, we'll pay for half of Pogba's transfer fee. We want him at Man United. Because remember what happened? When Adidas became a Man United sponsor, surprise, surprise, Paul Pogba came on board for a world record sum. But it happens all the time. That's nothing nefarious. It happens all the time in football. Don't think Real Madrid make these signings on their own and they're breaking FFP and sponsors they understand how to play it because they want their guys in their kit. That's real. But I think on the FFP books, now you have a problem. And then you have a power problem. Ryan, this is a great point. Now you got a power problem. A guy who's worth probably 3 or 4 players. This one guy, oh no, it's not working out on the football and the character front, but economically, we're tired because maybe Adidas said, hey, we'll match the 100 million you had to pay for Pogba in the long run. Don't worry about it. I mean, that is chump change to Adidas. And now what? Now you're tied to Paul Pogba for reasons that aren't on field. I believe that's what's happening here. Because the only way really to refresh is you got to get rid of some of those big number guys. Pogba's got to go. You got to start with him, but you can't. Adidas, it's all tied in. So it's a great point. The lack of squad depth is a problem. And they've made the mistake of so many teams, top heavy, right? Is United have 3 or 4 serviceable players, and then from there it's pretty bare. Greenwood's young. I'm still not sold on it. People are talking about Greenwood like he's Arjen Robben, like Frank Ribéry. No. Let's be clear, I take Leroy Sané, I take Gnabry any day. Folks, Greenwood's not there. Stop talking about him as your starter. Jadon Sancho is not the finished product, even if you get him. And it's another character problem, by the way, because we saw what he did in lockdown. And people might say, hey, you're a grumpy old man. Folks, sometimes when you are in positions of power, you have to act a certain way. And I know it's cool for young people to say, oh, he's sold out and he's such a company man. If you're corporate and you're representing Manchester United, shut the hell up. I don't want to hear your opinion. Put a tie on, put a suit on. It's a $10 billion business. I don't want to. When you become the leader of the organization, your ego must disappear. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you think. You are now at Manchester United, the brand in world sport. Dallas Cowboys, Manchester United, the brands in world sport. Be quiet and be the company man. Toe the line. But now you got Paul Pogba, who's more interested in dabbing, and it's crazy to me. It's just absolutely crazy to me. And Man United, I think Ryan Fuller's made a great point. And I don't care how ardent you are as a Man United fan, folks. You cannot argue that. You're top heavy. And you're trapped by a few, right? Let's just say they wanted to sell Maguire right now. Remember, Maguire's only been there for, what is this, his 4th season, 3rd season? Folks, he's 90 million pounds. You think, and Man United are going to want what, 70 million? Where are you going to get that? No, nobody on planet Earth is paying 50 million for Maguire right now. Nobody's paying 40 million for Maguire in the current market. And now he comes with that black check mark. You're top heavy. You spent all your money in wrong places. And when you get what they call vanity purchases, and I think it's what cost LVG his job with Angel Di Maria, when you make the vanity purchase as a manager, especially in today's market, it's got to hit or you're dead. Arsenal trapped in the same situation. Mesut Ozil didn't work. What happened to the manager? Dead. When your vanity purchases don't work, you're dead. And I've always argued for this. I don't care what you say. Your vanity purchase, the talent has to be so transcendent that I don't have to worry about character. That's always been my thing. So Man City made a mistake with Robinho. I'll give you some examples. Huge mistake. His talent was good, but he wasn't generational. Generational hype. Talent wasn't generational. And then you had the character problems. That was a problem. Real Madrid saw it. Otherwise, they would have never let him go. Real Madrid don't let go of players. Now, when you're Carlos Tevez, you can behave however you want because you're a generational talent. I mean, the guy went away, and he came back. He looked like he was in the 3rd trimester of his pregnancy and took Man City to the title when they were struggling. And his waist must have been a 38, at least. He gave up football for 3 months, came back, played in the toughest league in the world. See, you have to be real. In life, there is something called be who you can afford to be. Carlos Tevez can afford to do whatever he wants. generational talent. But when you want that generational talent, accept the character issues. But here's the thing: production tolerance. We will tolerate as long as you're producing. But here's one thing that'll never happen: tolerance must never be above production. Production tolerance. Production must always be above what we got to tolerate. And I think Paul Pogba's greating Man United. I think Maguire is... that's insane. He's that close. We've just made you captain. That's a problem. Ryan, they're top heavy, and I think if you're a Man United fan, be honest, you've got to be concerned about that. You've got to be concerned about that. Because the most realistic tournament they can win is probably the League Cup. So if you want to go deep in that, you're in three competitions. Because the FA Cup, let's be serious, Man City, Liverpool will probably win that, and maybe Chelsea. But you don't have the squad. You do not have the squad. So Ryan Fuller says he's a Liverpool fan. Hey, in a good place. In a good place. I mean, that is a club that is in a great place. Ryan says, in life, you need a plan to succeed. Jurgen Klopp is an obvious recent example. When you watch United, you can see Ollie and the board have no plan. This is a great thing to finish off on. Ryan Fuller, some people might say you're biased. He's not. He's not. He's dead right. You know what Liverpool got right? And this is John W. Henry. If you go and look up his history and go and see what he did in Boston. This is not... it's not an anomaly. It's not a miracle. This is how this guy rolls. You look at Tom Werner or Tom Werner, as the Americans say, and you go and look at John W. Henry and the ownership group from Boston. Look what they did with Boston. What they hadn't won in forever. Big Papi, of course, the famous David Ortiz, taking Boston all the way to the Red Sox. They hadn't won, was it in 40 or 30 years? I can't remember. Same model. You come in and what do? You bring in people, right? And then you analyze what's the club, what's the essence of the club. This is what I've loved about Liverpool. What is the essence of the club? It's a community club. It's a working class place. So what did they do? Because Liverpool can still pull whoever they want. And as much as people think the Rafa Benitez were great years, but it didn't. Rafa's a classy European, Spanish, idiosyncratic. He loves art, and I love listening to Rafa. He's more of a philosopher and, high-minded, very high-minded. So it never quite felt right. It never quite felt right with Rafa. And I know he won the Champions League, and I know Liverpool fans love him, but he never took them to the promised land, which is the league. Of course, he had that great season with Torres, but it never quite felt right, and they've never quite gotten it right. Brendan Rodgers, slightly high-minded, not quite the guy. But what have you found in Jurgen Klopp? You found a guy who you could have a drink with at the pub. So number one, what you've said is, because Liverpool's a cult. Unlike any other, Newcastle and Liverpool, two grounds and places I've been, it's beyond a football club. It is a cult, and I love it. They said, who's the guy to connect the board and the players to the fans? And this is what most clubs don't get right. You look at Mourinho at Chelsea. If you've been to the West End of London, what is it? High fashion, high-level property, sophistication, noses up in the air in the West. If you've been to West London, you understand what that's about. Jose Mourinho, he comes in. I'm the special one. So immediately, what does that do to the Chelsea fan base? West London, sophistication. We're better than everyone. Chelsea have never been that good again. Because now they've got the manager who's connecting them, the fans, and the board. Everyone is in unison. Jurgen Klopp, guy you can have a drink with down the pub. Liverpool fans will love that. And you look at United, the synchronous Liverpool right now. Manager, fans, board, dream. So they got it right. Is smart ownership. You got to have smart ownership, right? They analyzed is what do we need in the manager? What must he portray? Working class guy, hard work, non-negotiable, right? You go to Liverpool, blue collar. They'll tell you they work hard up there. Hardworking, working class people. Jurgen Klopp, hardworking. He feels like a grinder. They are together. And then you say to your manager, what do you need? What do you need? Klopp says, I need this. All right. I've never heard Liverpool, since Klopp's been there, having transfer problems. Smart ownership, and the manager gets it. He gets it. I give more credit, and I listen, I love John W. Henry. I love big business. I love it. But I give the most credit to Jurgen Klopp. He has humbled himself. He's become one of the Liverpool folks. Mourinho did it at Chelsea. It's us against the world. We are better. We are West London. We are high-end shopping. We are Chelsea. That is Fergie. What was Fergie's great sell? Right? Manchester, factory town, hard-nosed, non-negotiable, tough. Right? Nobody will ever outwork Manchester United. Look at some of those teams that Fergie won with. Most of Fergie's tenure, folks. Yes, they spent the most money for the first 12 years. Okay. But what was the essence of the team? Hard work, non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. You're talented, I don't care. Jaap Stam, you want to stop working? Ruud van Nistelrooy, you want to stop working? David Beckham, you're the biggest star, most financially profitable. You're at the peak, but you becoming a bit of a spice boy. You're not quite turning it up at training like you used to. There's the door. Work, non-negotiable. He's a Glaswegian. It was clear. You saw what a Fergie team looked like. What is Manchester United's identity? What about Ollie embodies Manchester United? The owners have got it wrong. Maybe Ollie's the bridge guy, right? But the next guy has to be a Pochettino or one of these big guys, because Manchester United now, right? That was Fergie's way. But Man United should go, we're the big bully in town. We're sick of this. We're better than all of you. We will outspend you, and we don't care. But they're kind of like half and half, like Aaron Wan-Bissaka. What's he doing at Man United? That shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. Man United should be bullying everybody out the way. Don't apologize for being the greatest. But it feels like Man United are like, Daniel James, and we'll get Martial and he's got potential. Folks, you had Eric Cantona at a stage. That's the level. Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, Roy Keane, right? You shouldn't be paying 90 million for Maguire. You should have had Thiago Silva, right? You should have had Thiago Silva back when Rio Ferdinand was retired. That's Man United. There's an identity crisis. You know why? The owners, the manager, and the fans are not connected. There's nothing about Ollie that says the Manchester area. There's nothing. Forget the fact that he played for the club. That's a whole different kettle of fish. What about Ollie? What about the way he presents himself? Nothing says United about him. So it's either the working class way of Fergie, which he doesn't have. He's Norwegian, never known a day of waiting in a hospital line. That's not going to change. And he's quite timid. Everything about Ollie's timid. You're Manchester United, iron fist. It's ridiculous that Man City are bullying Man United. It's ridiculous that Chelsea are bullying manager. Owners, yes. It's a given. But let's be honest. The Man United owners have spent, folks. I was looking at some numbers yesterday. They net spend, it's the second highest in the last 10 years. Man United, behind Man City, no one's close. Net spend. So they've spent the money. But you got to get the manager right. And what does the manager have to do? Humble yourself. What is the club about? Man United, the fact that they're getting bullied means they have no identity. You're getting bullied by Manchester City. And it's not just a money issue. It's an image issue. They got Pep Guardiola. That means something. And Pep gets it. New money, flashy. And Pep won't apologize. You can see that in him. He's not going to apologize for spending another 50 million. Love us or hate us, we're going to beat you. That's what Man United should be. Man United should be outspending everyone, and it doesn't matter. Don't apologize. And people say you're buying the league. Who cares? We're Man United. Get the hell out of here. But now the greatness in life is when you're not worried about what other people are saying. Your culture's so strong. You look at Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich do not give a damn what you say. They will buy whoever they want. And how long have people been accusing them of, you're stealing all of Dortmund's players? They do not give a damn. The great saying at Bayern Munich, Mia San Mia. We are who we are. We are who we are. It's now time for Manchester United. Folks, you've got to face it. There's a reason why CEOs, right, are groomed for 20 years. Because when you get there, you need to be ready. We can't get Ollie's getting ready on the job at the biggest job in the world. That works at Chelsea. That'll work at Man City. Man United are the Berkshire Hathaway of football. You think Warren Buffett hasn't been training somebody for 30 years to take over? 10, 15, 20 years to take over? Are you kidding me? Oh, do you think he's just gonna? By the way, I saw they just taken up their stock in Coca-Cola by 9% ownership of Coke, right? You think Warren Buffett's gonna give 9% of Coca-Cola to his nephew, who's just been around? Yeah, he's just finished college. All right, let's let him in. That's what Man United feel like they're not taking it seriously. Be who you are, Ryan. Great points, and he's a Liverpool fan. Right, and we'll finish off on this. I'd love to know what Man United fans think. Identity is everything, folks. And be comfortable with who you are. That's why I believe that's why Liverpool are so magnificent. Is they are comfortable with who they are. We will outwork you. We will connect, and the manager will connect to the fans, and it's electrifying. Man United, are you comfortable with who you are? You should be bullying everybody. Chelsea are bullying you. Man City have bullied you for a decade now. What are Man United going to do about that? And we'll finish off on this. I think it's a great point. I'd love to know what you think. Champions League group. Oof, it's a stinker for Man United. Leipzig and PSG. Whew. Yeesh. Tough one. Better replace. Ryan Fuller says, your squad's not big enough. You better replace. And Ryan says, I had to watch shit for 20 years. So finally enjoying winning football with Liverpool. It's been worth the wait. Well said, Ryan. Well said. It's been 20 long years. It's been 20 long years. And I think that's a great provocation. If you're a Man United fan, going into year 8 now, and you're hearing a lot more talk from United fans, aren't you? Oh, our history. Do you know who we are? Okay, what's happening to the results? Because often you could say, oh, by March, the league's over. Remember those days? I'm old. I remember the disaster of by March, it's over, and Man United are rotating teams in the league so they can go for the Champions League. I remember that. I mean, really, by February, the league was over. For 10 years, really, Man United, it was just like Beckham, Giggs, Scholes, Van Nistelrooy, revolting. But now you're hearing the talk, our history. People are buying the club or buying the league. That should be Man United. You should be buying the league. You shouldn't apologize for that. This is why you build legacies. Listen, I'll go back to the same example. Do you think Warren Buffett goes, when he bought Brooks, right, which is if you have running shoes, just a little thing they own. Brooks is a Berkshire Hathaway company. As he takes his stock from 7 to 9% at Coca-Cola, what do you think Warren Buffett's saying? I'm not sure what people are going to say. They're probably going to think we're being a bit greedy and, oh no, we're bullying them. Are you kidding me? Why are Man City not getting Riyad Mahrez? Why are Man City not getting Gabriel Jesus? Why are Man City beating Manchester United to that? Excuse me. It doesn't make sense to me that Man City are beating them to Kevin De Bruyne. You're Manchester United. Or are you? That's the question to ask. We have to be real, folks. Stop living in the past. Look, listen, this happens all the time. And I think I'll finish off on this. Right? Human beings, we carry baggage from old relationships. And then what does that happen? What happens in the next one? Your next boyfriend or girlfriend now has to deal with you walking on eggshells around you the whole time because you're still thinking every now and then you'll show signs of, oh, I don't trust you. Where are you? You're sending texts. Let the baggage go. Fergie's gone. That whole mystery of, oh, we did it with the kids and the United way. It wasn't the United way. It was the Fergie way. Let it go. Now what do? The real world now is you built that legacy. Fergie built the legacy. He built the financial juggernaut so that you could pivot. The power, the beauty of financial power is you can pivot. You should acquire smaller companies. You shouldn't let small companies beat you. Toyota should never have let Tesla beat them. But everyone didn't take that little boy from Pretoria seriously. And here he is now sending people to the moon for 1/10 of NASA's price. Man United got blindsided, and that's insane. That's on the owners. You shouldn't have Aaron Wan-Bissaka as your right back. You shouldn't have Luke Shaw as your left back. You shouldn't have Lindelof as your centre back. because I remember Dennis Irwin. I remember Gary Pallister. I remember Nemanja Vidic. I remember Patrice Evra. Right? I remember Roy Keane. And now you've got Scott McTominay. You've got Fred for 50 million. Come on. So, Ryan, totally agree with you. And Man United fans, my warning. PSG, Man United, Leipzig, and Istanbul. Like, okay, that's the gimme game. The acid test now is, are you real enough to say our acid test is Red Bull Leipzig? Folks, you could have been anywhere. You could have been doing anything you wanted. Ryan's watching all the way from, and he's just, it's delightful for Ryan. He's just loving life. He's loving life. He's probably thinking, what, 4-0 tonight? And they'll play the kids. And they'll destroy Arsenal. Yeah, they will destroy Arsenal. Listen, now it's not about talent thing. It's like they've got the mental edge over Arsenal. Because you see what Arteta's trying to do, 3 at the back, trying to keep it tight. But Klopp's got it perfect. Even when Curtis Jones and these young kids come in, it's so perfect now. He's got the system over talent. You just plug and play, and they are flying. The managers set standards. Liverpool's a standard club now. We just don't care about anyone else. We play to our own standard. Folks, you could have been anywhere tonight with anybody. You chose to be with me for another night. This has been the MKT Show. I look forward to tomorrow. We will look forward to the Premier League on the weekend. Enjoy the football tonight. Peace, love, happiness.